Thanks for coming to the presentation. That's it. Oh, I'm kidding. I'm Richard, and we are going to be doing this presentation on the screen. You may have just come out of Ben's presentation. If so, thank you. You're talking about imposter syndrome, which is very present right now. We're going to talk about this. Just a quick shout out to everyone in the chat. Hello. Thank you. You wish it was. You wish it was. That was very tempting too. So I'm going to be giving this presentation. Just a quick shout out to what you could have been watching. You could have been watching D.L. Tillery's How to Structure a Short Story presentation, or you could be watching Haley Wright's The Creative Grind, Finding Time to Write in the midst of a working life. So, it's not too late to escape now. I might even recommend that. Right. What will we be covering today? So this presentation is going to be cobbled together from a longer presentation that I had planned, but alas, I've only got 20 minutes, not an hour, but we are where we are. We are going to be talking about myth busting and hobbies, passions and writing. Free is a good place to start, but don't stay there. And you get what you pay for. And let's face it, none of us have paid for this presentation, so that is going to be very, very true. So, introduction, here is me. I am a thriller and sci-fi author from London in the UK. I've got a degree in creative writing, which is of dubious value. I've got published works on Amazon. I've got The Landlady, which is a short story. I actually wrote for my university degree. What fun. Nightmare Tenant and Foundation, which is the precursor to that book. Okay, so if you want to get hold of me, it's very easy ways to do that. You can get hold of me on these social platforms, all good fun. TikTok, maybe not. Good luck to anyone who does use TikTok, but it's not for me. But also, the best way to get in touch with me is to subscribe to my newsletter. Yeah. Do it now. So that's enough talking about me. God. So we're going to talk about myth busting. So there are a couple of writing myths that I think we need to kind of smash first. So the first writing myth is that we have to be like this twat. Just sitting in Starbucks with the MacBook, very kind of conspicuously being utterly unlikable, which could be said about me sometimes. But this is not the one I want to talk about. I want to talk about a different kind of myth when it comes to writing. So we're going to throw this person in the bin. I want to talk about the pervasive myth of the penniless artist. It's a trope that's very common in writers, but I think I want to challenge this. So we're going to ask a question. What is writing? Let's answer that question, shall we? Writing is a hobby and a passion. It can be one, it can be the other, it can be both at the same time. Now let's look at some examples of some hobbies that we indulge in. And there is like model trains and baking, running, which to be quite honest is more of a torture, but some people consider it, some really strange people think it's a hobby. I looked on Wikipedia at a list of hobbies because that's how you prepare for these things. And I got told that spreadsheets are a hobby, which I can get behind. And also Books by Adrian has the hobby of driving the space shuttle. Anyway, so if you enjoy your hobbies and your passions, you invest in them so you can get better at them and that the results increase in quality. So using the examples we had before, so if you're into train modelling, you buy new trains and stuff like that, and you turn into this old guy very quickly. Baking, you buy yourself a mixer, and then you get shouted at by Gordon Ramsay, or you do stuff like that. Still very well and good. Running, if you're that kind of masochist, you buy yourself new shoes. This presentation is not sponsored. I wish it was, because that would have made things a lot better. And if you want to drive space shuttles, you just become this guy. Okay, so does this mean you have to spend the dollar bills or pound coins if you live in this wonderful place that I call home? I mean, you don't have to be Walter White to succeed in writing, but do be prepared to invest in your toolkit. In an increasingly digital world, we're going to talk a little bit about that because, to take an example, you can't really do it all on your phone if you actually want to kind of get anywhere, in my humble opinion. I mean, this whole presentation is my humble opinion, so how good is that? Because back in the day, you had people like J.K. Rowling who literally used pen and paper in a cafe to plan their books. Again, we've moved on since the 90s, unfortunately. So yeah, let's think about some free things that we can use as a starting point, but we shouldn't see them as the end point. You know, they're like the springboard for these things. So 3 things that kind of jump to mind for me is like, you know, Google Docs is a great starting point for writing. You know, and you also get some very good tools with that, like Google Drive. So it's a good starter, but I wouldn't say Google Docs is actually where you should be stopping. Again, I've got the example here of Canva, which I know a lot of people use. I mean, you can do quite a lot with the free version, but not everything. So sometimes you have to actually be prepared to pay for these services. We'll get onto that a little bit more in a moment. Now, I don't like Google Docs. I don't like Google Docs. I want that on the record. I don't like Google Docs. Evernote is another kind of note-taking solution that you can use. It's a good starting because it's free. And a lot of these services are free, but you have to pay through advertising or, you know, you get limited functionality. So you have to kind of make a trade-off there. And also, I want to say you have to be prepared to invest. So if you have like a 12-year-old laptop running Windows Vista, getting a bit long in the tooth, don't expect the greatest performance, because sometimes you have to invest in a toolkit. So an example I would give there is, you know, in the olden days, people would be using like a Parker pen or a quill, or I don't know. So if you invest only like the cheap pens you steal from work, you know, sometimes you've got to kind of invest in those tools. Can I just stop here and just say track changes is awful on Google Docs. I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. Anyway, so we're going to go through some of the tools I use and pay for with my own money. By the way, if you want to donate to me, I do have a Ko-fi, which is very good. Please do give me money on there if you want, because I love money, as many people will attest to. So, first thing I pay for is I pay for Microsoft Office, because, and I don't really care who gets upset about this, it is the industry standard. So if you want to query your books, just pony up for Office. It's actually quite cheap. It's about £50 a year I pay, and that obviously comes with cloud backup, which is very helpful. If I had more time, I'd love to go into all the cloud backup Hoogina flips. So yeah, the reason I stick with Word for my editing and other such things is because it's the industry standard. It's the full fat Coke as opposed to the Diet Pepsi that is Google Docs, which is friggin' awful. Anyway, so yeah, and I think, not being funny, we need to be less iconoclastic when it comes to adhering to the standards of the industry in which we are in. Another thing I pay for is, and Tiffany Russell has a very good presentation coming up about this, Scrivener. I draft all of my long form stuff in Scrivener. It works really well. Definitely go to Tiffany's presentation a little bit later on about that, because I think it's a fantastic tool. And yeah, Google Docs will do, but this allows you to adapt your workflow in many different ways. It's very adaptable. So I would definitely say it's worth investing in. Don't be scared by it. I mean, again, Tiffany's going to be doing a great presentation about this, which I recommend everyone watch if you have a little bit of scaredy catness about Scrivener. Another tool I use is, this will come as no surprise to anyone, I use Excel for a lot of my kind of like admin. I use it a lot for my planning too. I know there's other apps you can use, but and not be funny, if you're going to pay for Word, you get Excel as well, so you might as well just get on board with that. Another thing that I pay for, because it's a good service, and again, you can kind of make do with the free version, but there's a lot of limitations on there. I have been a bit of a convert to pro writing for doing polished drafts of my stuff. So I would definitely recommend that. I think Ben did a video a little while ago talking about pro writing. I recently did a pass of pro writing on my novel The Thaw, which I hope to query at some point if I can pull my bloody finger out and get over stuff and things. So yes, I would say they're definitely worth paying. And these are all like, so the thing is, with Word, Excel, Pro Writing, these are kind of annual subscriptions, but I see those as the cost of doing business in this kind of writing sphere. So if I want to do well, I think, okay, it's a hobby, it's a passion, and like with the other passions we talked about a little bit earlier, I'm prepared to put some money into it if I want the best results. And likewise, I know we're talking about the crappy laptop. So now you don't have to go out and buy a MacBook and be one of those irritating people. Even if your husband does get you a discount, still makes you look like a swat, to be honest. But invest in literally a good machine to write on. Again, like going back to the whole Parker pen versus the big biro, your literal, what you write on is a very important thing to do. So it's worth investing in something that works, you're comfortable using, you know how to use it, and you can use all these other tools in conjunction with. So yeah, that is pretty much the long and short of what I had to talk about today. It's could have been a very much longer presentation, but alas, we are where we are. So I am going to ask a question because we've got 5 minutes left. Any questions? I'm going to go through the chat and I'm going to pull up any things with a Q. Sarcasm doesn't work on the internet, Ben, but well done. Okay, I did clarify this. I don't think it's great. Anyway, let's go back onto the questions. This is a very good question. I do my drafting of the first draft in Scrivener. I mean, you lose a point for spelling it wrong, Barrett. But I do most of my editing in Word because of track changes, because it is the industry standard process. And track changes in Word, it really works. I know we like to kind of bash Microsoft, saying Microsoft's crap. Track changes is a fantastic mature feature. It works really well. I recently got an edit of my book that I'm hoping to have out in September. That came through my editor, and he did all his comments in comments, and now into track changes, and it's going to be fine. It takes a little bit of the pressure off the editing, just because it's very non-destructive until you press complete changes. Excel. What is Notion? See, this is the thing. I'm kind of a little bit against these kind of one-off newbie apps. I just go with the mature solution. I can bend Excel to my absolute whim. I don't have to kind of relearn anything because I've got skills in Excel. Literally, I've had for about 20 years, and I can just, I'm comfortable in there. And so I would just say, just instead of all these kind of fancy one-off tools like Notion or other things like that, I don't really know. I just use Excel because it works for me. But if Notion works for you, then all power to you. Best editing software, Microsoft Word. Hands down, it is the best because you've got track changes and it's none of this kind of like fancy bollocks. Agree, it's well worth the money. Yeah, thanks, Victoria. I think track changes. And the thing with track changes, the reason why I bleat on about it sometimes is if you sell a book to a publisher, they are going to use track changes. So you better get with the program now. So don't be one of those kind of Yahoo snubs. I don't use Microsoft people. So yeah, I mean, if you're going to have that attitude, you're going to have a problem, I think. I've heard of this. It is far too complicated for me. But well done, Ben. Thank you. I will not give a it to any of them. It's just for me. I think you still can buy a perpetual license of Office 2021, where you buy it once, it's yours forever, but then of course you miss out on the updates in Microsoft 365, which I find really useful. I actually think the cloud storage is worth the price of admission on its own. I get a terabyte for like £50. So I would say definitely look at seeing if you, and it is quite affordable. I mean, not being funny, but the Adobe software is hideously expensive, and you know, Adobe's not as big as Microsoft, so I don't know how they can get away with that. This is a really good point. I think Tiffany's going to be going in. You can use as much or as little of Scrivener as you like. You're right, it does have a lot of writerly bells and whistles that Word doesn't have. I mean, one of the more annoying things in Word has to be that stupid editor thing where it tells me off for swearing, and that's easily turned off. Yeah, the Microsoft editor thing they've put in Scrivener, which is basically trying to rip off. I say rip off, it's always it's spinning off Grammarly and Pro Writing Aid. It's bloody gross. I want it to go away. Yep, because Barrett has travelled in time to watch the presentation already. This is a very good question. The trouble I have with Google Docs is it does work, but in terms of like the kind of feature set and interface, it's like going back in time to using like Word 97, and I just don't particularly get on with it. But if you get on with it, all power to you. Is Scrivener easier to resize manuscript? Now the thing with Scrivener is that you need to, when you're writing in Scrivener, don't think of it as you're writing a book. You're just writing text. You can spit it out in a multitude of different formats and format it elsewhere. Scrivener is just for writing. So you can write in Scrivener in whatever font you want, and you can export it to like a Word document for editing, and you can then do what you want with it then. It's just text focused, which is great. Esther loves Scrivener, and she is very right to do that. What can I say, Shannon? This presentation was excellent. Yeah, I'm not sponsored by Microsoft, but I wish I was. Oh, the comments disappeared. I would say, in response to Ben's comment here, Pro Writing Aid, it is less a code, but more a series of rules. So think of it like the Pirates of the Caribbean thing. It's just like guidelines. So don't take it as gospel, but see it as guidelines, and you can learn from it. But yeah, don't be just like beholden to it, because at the end of the day, it's just an algorithm. At the end of the day, would you not simply export the file to PDF or Word doc first? I think we're having a conversation of which I'm not privy to. Any other software I use in paper? Yes, there was one I forgot to mention. I've already trash talked Adobe because they're fucking horrible. I bought Affinity Photo for doing image items, and Affinity Publisher as an alternative to InDesign, which I use for paperback formatting. So definitely look at that. They're worth getting because Adobe is very expensive. You could do that. Ben is wrong here. Ben is just wrong, and we can't take him seriously because he enjoys running like a strange person. I agree here, yeah. What is a good way to track shared details across documents? I have recently started doing this with a character sheet in Excel. You can imagine that. But what you could do is, what could you do? You could use like OneNote to set up like a notebook and have hyperlinks to everything, so it's all searchable and stuff like that. That's something I need to play with. Yes, it is. Thank you. I need to shut up now, don't I? Because I'm over my 20 minutes. Yeah, what Ben says. Yeah, right. Anyway, right. I'm going. Bye. Thank you for coming. Right, bye.